Welcome into the voice of college football on Notre Dame. I'm your host, Patrick. That's Brendan. Same as usual, same as for the last couple of weeks. We're running this back for the third straight Tuesday. So thank you, everybody who's tuning in and watching. The spring game was just a few days ago. Feels like we were expecting to learn a lot. I think we know more than potentially we went into that day knowing. But still, a lot of different questions, a lot of different stuff going on. Brendan, you told me that practices are still going on
They're still
post
going
spring
on.
game.
I've never. It's the first time I've heard of it. I kind of like it, but I don't know if it's because of the elongated season that everything was kind of pushed back a little bit. But yeah, they still have. I think they have like 2 more practices. Maybe as you're watching this, it might be 1 more practice. But yeah, that's fun.
I like it too. I got to be honest, because I think if you're a player that maybe you felt like you could have showed a little bit more in this, newish style of spring game, then you have a couple more practices, redeem yourself, show the coaches, a little bit something extra. Also, players are hopping in the transfer portal. I know for Miami, team that Notre Dame's going to be matched up with, they already had a couple guys going to the transfer portal, and one of them was one of their starting safeties too, I believe, and that kind of gives a little bit of an extra runway, I think, for those players to redeem themselves and maybe not hop into the portal just yet.
I think that's an angle I hadn't really thought of. With the extended practices, because it does a lot of years it's just like spring practice, boom, we're out. But everybody watched the spring game. There's no hiding behind it. I mean, the tape's there of you doing how you did in the spring game. And then it is sort of interesting that now it gives Marcus Freeman a chance to sort of see how certain guys respond, good or bad, to how they performed in the spring game. And I think that that's a pretty good data point, one that I hadn't thought about until that very second, that it does give them a data point of seeing how you react to negative or positive performance. And the noise, because this is a practice with a lot of noise. I mean, they had the scrimmage last week, but this is the one that, all of your fellow students watched you play this. It was on Peacock.
That's how I watched it. And like you said, a lot of your fellow students, a lot of fans were watching the spring game. 40,000 was the number that you said in the stadium.
Yeah, the official listed attendance is 4621.
Wow. I mean, it looked like there were plenty of people there, but
yeah, they didn't fill out the bowl. I mean, they never fill out the top bowl, and the end zones are always a little bit sparse. But I mean, it's a respectable spring game. Like,
definitely. I mean, some places aren't having it, so
some places aren't having any, and anybody that sells out a spring game, what are you doing? Like, I didn't go because my daughter had a soccer game that ran right up to it. They got scheduled for it, so I wasn't able to attend this year. But in the previous years that I do, the whole family's coming with me because it's a cheap ticket to the stadium for the kids to see, and then I don't have to pay the most attention. Because if they want to run back and forth, hey, there's a 7-on-7 drill in the middle of the game. What? Right? I mean, that was a little jarring.
Yeah, there seems like there was like a lot of schools that took that route this go around, where it wasn't just an actual scrimmage. Like a lot of different schools, if they were to keep their spring game, did it in a similar way that Notre Dame did. Now, the scoring wise, I don't know how many schools ended up doing it like that. They kind of tied everything in, but I thought it was cool to see. I mean, we were talking a little bit about Tyler Buckner and his movie script, Rudy, but we got to see some of the walk-ons, some of the third, fourth string guys play at the very beginning, play off to the side. So, I mean, I think that was always good. I take it from the perspective of like the player really trying to make a name for themselves or really trying to fight for that starting position. That's why I think, having some of the extra practices after the fact was good, as well as giving them a shot to, I thought was really cool, because spring games and the spring in general for college football is not something I had paid as close attention to. And then I realized, well, this is kind of the new way of doing things. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, I love the fact that, you want to look at it, at how it goes, or like, who's the guy, but like, good for Nolan James for getting out there and leading all players and receptions, right? I mean, he's an incoming kid and nobody really thought about it. And then there's a number 23 making plays. So I love that. 23 is my favorite Notre Dame number, which is always, going back as far as Autry Denson, and then every 23 that's come by. I love it. So it's nice seeing a number 23 making plays. But did you have any, before we get into quarterbacks, did you have any general thoughts about the offense? Because I think we'll spend some time on the defense, but did you have any general thoughts, non-quarterback related, about the offense?
So I thought that there was some good stuff on offense. I believe before the spring game, Marcus Freeman said that he wasn't going to look at the quarterbacks when or take into account as much their performance when the offensive line, the twos for the offensive line, or we're going to go against the seconds for the defense. And I got to be honest, I just did not feel after it seemed like he did put out like the true offensive line, the main unit, that group held up as well as I would have liked it to. I really felt like Notre Dame was getting home in a lot of in the spring games, and like you said, we'll get to the defense in just a second. But I felt like the offensive line wasn't really as sharp. I thought it's different in the run game when we don't have Jeremiah Love out there. The running backs were decent, they were good. Wide receiver wise, I mean, it's tough to guard Greathouse in that open field. Felt like he was sharp. Eli Raridan impressed me. I feel like he's not really the former 4-star, the guy coming off of 2 torn ACLs. I felt like he was sharp. I thought he was reliable. He only had a couple catches, but I thought he was pretty good too out there. We'll see what that tight end room ends up looking like. Elijah Burris, I believe, was caught one of the touchdowns too.
Yeah, he flashed. He looked good.
Yeah, I thought he looked pretty good too. I thought maybe I would learn a little bit more about who could potentially be that other receiver that joins Greathouse, Fields.
We weren't finding that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, because Fields wasn't there, and obviously Faison's not there. He was playing lacrosse. They're playing Virginia over the weekend, and he's in a lacrosse game. He's not at that, but like. Did you want to see more from KK Smith? I mean, I don't necessarily think.
Yeah, that was the one of the guys that I had specifically said I thought.
I mean, he got 3 catches.
Yeah, no, I mean it wasn't bad. Also, I definitely feel like it should be noted too. Whenever you have like there's certain springs where you have two quarterbacks and then like one maybe like incoming freshman, or like a more of like a walk-on kind of player, like not a scholarship guy, but they had a true rotation of those 3 guys. And I think sometimes you can see who has the most chemistry with a certain quarterback. And then, when the other ones come in, maybe they kind of fade, or, they're not like the same exact player. Kenny Minchie was running plenty in the game, and, maybe some of the wide receivers weren't really adjusting to that, just depending on who it was. No, nobody specifically with that, but yeah, I definitely would have liked to see a little bit more from that group.
I would have felt better if like Cam Williams had like a monster game or something. Yeah. But like realistic, and Elijah Burris looked good, and supposedly he's been looking great all camp, but I don't think that really matters for 2025 how good Elijah Burris looks, because I don't think that he's somebody that's going to impact sort of the meat of the schedule, which is front loaded anyway. So in the whole receiver room in general, this room's been questionable for going on how long now? I mean, when was the last time you felt truly good about the Notre Dame wide receiver room?
I mean, I was almost going to go back to like thinking about like Claypool.
It's Claypool, and it's probably 2018.
Yeah, that feels like it's been a long time, and we were talking about it during the recruiting segment, where it felt like getting that guy at the next level would be so crucial to this offense. But in the same vein, like you mentioned, we got like 3 guys who are going to be regulars in the fall that weren't out there either.
Yeah, I mean, there were bodies down, and even the guys that were like Greathouse is not out there doing. He's not out there to prove anything. He's got a spot. Yeah, it was probably 2018 team that had Miles Boykin. I mean, even the stats are pretty. Miles Boykin went for 872. Chase went for 639. And Chris Fink had 571 as the top 3 wide receivers. The next year, Claypool had 1,000, but the next highest receiver was Fink with 456. I mean, like,
And we knew Fink was like limited too with what he
Right,
could
right,
actually do
right,
when he was
right.
out there. Yeah.
Love slippery fox, but he's not. He's not your number 2 wide receiver. And then the next year, 2020, I mean they didn't have any depth or rotation. It was just the 3 guys that they had were the 3 guys that they had. Led by McKinley. But yeah, so I don't think that they've had a. I mean, you can even go back to maybe 2015 because Equanimous St. Brown and Fuller and like the Admiral's kid, Torrey Hunter. Like it's been a while since those kind of names have rolled through there. So when it comes to the wide receiver position and anything out of the spring game, I hoped somebody would flash, but it's not like I expected it. This room basically has to show me in the season before I start getting super excited about it.
Yeah, and also, we're talking about the wide receivers. That wasn't to say like that the running backs also weren't very good either, though. I don't want to also just have that to be a throwaway comment either. So I might have to circle back to that because I felt like, Price and Williams, they weren't bad either.
I thought Price was phenomenal. Yeah.
I think what did he average? He had like 6
7.3.
carries. Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
that's what I'm looking for.
6 for 44. And the big part about it, and like the funny thing about Jadarian Price that dawned on me as I'm watching this game is if Jeremiah Love wasn't on this football team and it was just Jadarian Price and we didn't know about Love, we'd be pumped.
Oh yeah,
Jadarian Price is a stud in his own right, and like most seasons could have started for Notre Dame playing football. Like it's if Jeremiah Love gets hurt, God forbid.
oh yeah,
The drop off to Jadarian Price isn't something that would keep me up at night because Jadarian in his own right is a stud, and like it's funny that to have that, and even if let's say Price get like Aeneas Williams is good,
yeah,
right, and Kendron Young is going to be good, so like I don't have any like the running back room for where it's come in the last like 6 or 7 years too. Like the recruiting and the development of the running backs, this is about as good a running back room in America as anywhere. So
I would honestly go as far to say I haven't really looked too much at like the specific depth charts of a lot of other schools, so I know it might be a big claim, but I would say it probably is the best running back room, at least returning. We don't have any incoming transfers. These are all guys who were here last year. That room is really good. I'm seeing some comments too, just coming in about the wide receiver production, saying that it does come down to just the quarterbacks and the fit, and then and how they end up playing. I felt like all the quarterbacks were pretty sharp still, but it's one of those things where it's you're going to need to also have that bona fide QB1 before you can potentially be taking some of those next steps. So definitely not all on the receivers. I'm curious. I wanted to go back to the tight ends really quick before we get to the defense. What did you think of the tight end room and what they had to offer?
Well, a big thing for me is Eli Reardon looks like he's going to be a guy, right? That's what we've been told all throughout the spring, and he had 2 catches for 21 yards. One of them went for 15. But then also you saw, and it was kind of funny when CJ Carr was in the game, like targeting Bauman and like making it a point to get the tight ends involved. And that's something that, for as much as I loved Riley Leonard's game, in the end, I had to come around to it and just accept, what the limitations. And one of his limitations was that he really didn't focus on tight ends. He didn't do it at Duke. He never had a tight end at Duke really go for more than 25 catches in a season. And, Mitchell Evans was hurt, to be fair, but seeing the tight ends get back involved in tight end U is nice.
Yeah, and Jack Larson, also the freshman, he had a pretty decent, he had a pretty decent game
2
too,
for
right?
41. Yeah,
2 for 41. And if I can remember correctly, he had like a over the shoulder grab too at a certain point in the game, and I thought that was really impressive. I think the tight ends are definitely something to to just be happy with. That was, like you said, a big question mark. We just didn't know for sure. We just didn't know for sure. And then be able to get through spring camp healthy and seeing those guys, and hopefully CJ Carr, if he is a starter, if he's not the starter, one of the quarterbacks can continue to get them involved. And because they're just too talented not to, right? And we're talking too much about like the receivers and what they can bring. Well, tight end's also another receiving position, right? Like, and they have to
Yeah.
be able to produce. And those guys, I thought, all played pretty well.
And a big part of it as well, like if Kevin Bauman and especially if Eli Reardon stays healthy, yeah, that's exactly right. Go Irish Nate. Eli Reardon is a dude. Came in sort of known for his athleticism, and from what practice reports I've heard, and from what the coaching staff has said, he is a willing and very capable blocker, which I wasn't sure was going to be a part of his game. And it is, and that makes him into a 5-tool tight end. Like he can block, he can run routes, he can catch, he can, a very exciting player if he can stay healthy. And then if Bauman stays healthy, having, I imagine that, Notre Dame is going to want to run a lot of 12 personnel. Because that's just been a Denbrock staple is having 2 tight ends. And if both guys stay healthy, and then you're getting Flanagan back, and it's just very excited.
Maybe we could potentially see like a lot more production from that room to help the wide receivers and however long it might take them to get up to speed. Let's move to the defense then. Carson Hobbs, I thought he was great.
I thought he was great too. And that was one of the guys I tagged in the pre-show as one of the ones I was kind of excited to see, because I'm not sure if he's going to obviously he's not going to start the season out because Leonard Moore exists and Christian Gray exists. But like we had said, that safety net, if a guy goes down, like what's your first we talked about it on our first ever show together. We talked about that 2018 Clemson game, and it was an injury to Love in the secondary that just sank that defense, and Clemson scores the back-to-back touchdowns thrown against his replacement. And having a healthy guy to step in there, because even you look at this year and having Leonard Moore ready because Benny Moe got hurt, and having a capable, not your nickel, but having a capable third corner in there it's super valuable. Yeah.
And he had one of the picks too as well, right?
I thought
he did.
The inefficient. No, Ben Minich got the pick. Yeah, I mean, it was, anybody could have caught. It was just a bad. It was for all the good of CJ Carr. Like there was no one there. And
we clearly saw the arm talent from him, but he tried to force that one in. That one in. I get that. Yeah, I thought Bryce Young was pretty good too. In the first drive, I believe he had a tackle for loss, and then a sack as well that ended it. So I mean, was there any like kind of doubt in a sense, right, that he was going to be any good? But I thought that
I guess I wanted to see some confirmation bias on him, right? Yeah. Like I want him to be very good, and then when I see him, like that's one of those ones where like you had said, hey, when we're talking to the receivers, like wish somebody could have popped off, and nobody really did. And like at the same time, from that rush position, I wanted to the spring game to see if somebody would pop off, and then sure enough, sacked in. I mean, Bryce Young was Angeli held onto the ball a little bit as he is apt to do, but I mean, yeah, very excited about it.
I just thought the pressure that they were able to get was so impressive. I just felt like the defense just got so much pressure, just separate. I felt like it was there for all of the quarterbacks. Obviously, Kenny Minchey was able to get away from it a little bit, but the actual pass rush for this Notre Dame defense to me really, really stood out during that game. Kind of threw them a little bit off balance at times, but the Notre Dame offense felt like it was in sync for a good portion of the day. Maybe not always getting points, but there was so much back.
They were able to move the ball,
yeah,
like consistently move the ball. And to be fair to the offensive line, right? I mean, they were down like 3 guys on the O-line who probably might be starting in Miami. So, I mean, it was already a mash unit. So that's to be fair to them, because Gerby's down, and yeah, they were starting, not the guys that will be starting in August.
No, yeah. I mean, we saw a few of the potential starters or definite starters still out there, but yeah, like you mentioned, yeah, the offensive line certainly had some struggles. I did want to go back to the Freeman comment. I do think I remember him saying something along the lines of to not judge them too much. So we'll definitely have to do that. But I felt like this team was really able to do a lot of different things defensively, despite it obviously being kind of more of a vanilla game from them, just schematically. And despite maybe some of the injuries, some of the guys who weren't there as well, I thought it was good. And then, forcing some of the turnovers, being able to wreak havoc, get to the quarterbacks was really impressive. Sometimes it's a little tough to gauge whenever they blow plays dead and they say, hey, look, it's over, or like the quarterback's scrambling, but we all know that was a sack. But at the same time, they were able to get to the quarterback a lot, and I felt like the offense wasn't able to pick up some of the blitzes and different things like that. And I want to credit the defense more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Ash comes in and immediately his defense gives up 70 points in a game. It's kind of embarrassing, but
Yeah.
Putting that terrible performance, obviously tongue in cheek. I don't know. I my biggest takeaway from the game, more so than because a lot of the things about the offense was the quarterbacks, and then the other part was like who's not there, because there were more who's not there than there were theirs. I mean, the quarterbacks weren't getting the ball snapped by their center, in fall camp. They didn't have their normal, left tackle wasn't, and they didn't have right guard as well, was out of commission, and you're just look at the wide receivers, and Faison's out, and Great House is limited. So but defensively, I mean, how good are these linebackers?
Yeah.
It just, the two deep of the linebackers, you could take the two deep and put them on any Notre Dame team from like the mid teens, and they would stand up. Maybe Jalen Smith bumps them, but put them on the 2016 team.
I also
2017,
felt like
2016, they might win a few more games. Yeah,
Kingston.
KVA is,
Yep,
Kingston. KVA is phenomenal. Snead's going to be good. Even somebody like Zinter would be an absolute player on a lot of Notre Dame teams in the past. But I other than the linebackers, the big one for me is if Jaden Stroman thought he was coming to Notre Dame in the fall to have a safety job handed to him, he is going to now find himself in the thick of a fight, because Luke Talich can play. Ben Minich can play. I feel really good about that Oppo spot next to Adon Schuler. What do you think about the safety?
I would agree with you. I think that the coverage in this game, and then just based off of what we were hearing leading up to it, that the guys out there are playing well, and it's gonna be a fight. It's gonna be a battle. And we mentioned the transfer portal at the very top of the show. I don't know if this we'll see any dominoes fall within the next week, maybe in that secondary, but it's definitely something I'm going to keep an eye on. But yeah, I agree. It's going to be a fight in the fall, and I just this defense was able to hold their own. And you mentioned KVA. I just felt like him also, just that the linebackers impressed me. It was really like at all three levels of this defense, were just able to get kind of what they wanted. Not, I mean, it wasn't like a dominant performance. I certainly don't want to say that too much, right? Because you mentioned like the offense was able to move the ball up and down the field, but in a bend but don't break kind of situation, I felt like this defense kind of rose to the occasion in certain moments that I thought was really interesting, really good. The coverage was tight, forcing CJ Carr, who was having probably one of the best days it ever looked like he had on a collegiate football field, end up throwing something that he probably shouldn't have thrown. just based off of the pressure, maybe held the ball a little bit too long, maybe should have got out of the pocket, something. I think that is also just a major testament to this defense and to the secondary and to the pass rush.
Yeah, absolutely. And plus, it's not like they're allowed to do anything exotic. It's not like they're doing stunts or a whole lot of shifting. So, I mean, it's a pretty vanilla defense. And they say a lot of times in the spring ball, right, the defense is usually ahead of the offense, and the defense looked good. And I think that that's one of the things that I was encouraged about the offense as well, is that even though the defense was vanilla, it did get their pound of flesh. The offense acquitted themselves pretty well. And the whole operation, as far as the players, the talent level at Notre Dame has increased so much, and Marcus Freeman's comfort level in running this practice, this glorified practice, and it's night and day from just where we were at as recently as the start of the Marcus Freeman era, where we had like the Tyler Buckner's anointment, right? With Drew Pine backing him up, and it's just, you look at where we are now and just the way that the whole operation and the talent level, like the offensive line is replenished and stocked. The defensive line is flashing. The linebackers is an embarrassment of riches. I've never known a Notre Dame secondary as deep and as talented as this one is. And that's with losing Xavier Watts and Benjamin Morrison, which is ridiculous to say. Just every part and component of this defense. And when it comes to Marcus Freeman, it's like, what's the net value that he brings to this program and the identity of being defense first? And you can see this in their recruiting. You can see this in the amount of All-Americans and the performances that he get in the playoff run. They've adopted their head coach's defensive mentality. And I mean, they might have one again, one of the best defenses in college football going into the season.
I mean, I think they will. And you kind of said something too that might bring me in to the next topic, and that was the quarterback battle. And if you can, I think there's this quarterback battle that's going on in Notre Dame right now. If you could do it against the Notre Dame defense, you could do it against a lot of different teams in college football. And the probably biggest takeaway I think a lot of people had was, man, these three quarterbacks were good. There might be a front runner though, or at least two of them right now. I'm just gonna lay it broadly to you.
All right, hit me with it.
Three quarterbacks entered this spring game. How did they leave it, and what order did they leave it in?
Oh, well, I think that if you are to say that Steve Angeli exited anything other than number one in this spring, he exited number three and he's gone. And I don't think that he finished number one this spring. I think through the spring, from what we've heard and read and seen now, Minchie was clearly the quarterback that sort of took a lot of the oxygen out of the room in this battle and asserted himself as like Minchie, right? And he looked pretty good. He looked great with his legs. There's a lot of things and I think that a format like this severely hampers Minchie's ability to do his thing with his game, because a large component of it is his legs, and not just his legs as far as like running like Riley Leonard, but his escapability and his scrambling, which is what everybody's saying is what they've seen throughout the spring camp. Is it's not really his get off and go when a play breaks down. It's that he scrambles to buy time, more Mahomesian than say like Josh Allen. And then, I mean, in this game, was Carr your favorite this game?
Yeah, Carr was my favorite. I thought he started so well. To answer my own question, I guess I would have to agree with the chat. I think it was Carr, Minchie, and Jelly. Carr, he started 9 for 11, a little over 100 yards and a touchdown. He came out firing. His ball looked good. He looked like he had that different level of arm talent that we had always kind of heard of. He
He
looked
was
healthy.
feathering it over the layered defense. It was on both of his throws to the tight end, those back shoulder. It's just right over the shoulder. It's just beautiful passes.
I hate to sound like an apologist, but when I think to that interception, I'm almost like, who is throwing that in this room right now? Like, who actually believes that they could have completed that ball? As maybe like of a bad decision as it was to just throw it over the middle like that, and it did end up being a turnover. Like the confidence too just felt like it was there. And I was surprised. If you had told me last week, I would have said Angeli's in this somewhat. He has to be, right? He's got to be, not just because of the experience, but I'm thinking he can take that and produce it into a spring game and, spring practices that will elevate him to a spot where he is the starter or he feels compelled not to leave. But I think right now he's third. CJ Carr's clearly got something that maybe even the other two don't have, but Kenny Minchie definitely impressed me. We had heard stuff, throughout this entire spring. You brought it up a couple shows ago where you were talking that you were hearing that he was the guy. He was one of the guys, and he's definitely got something the other two don't. And that's that escapability, that running. And as you
And he can
mentioned,
do a
maybe it was
backflip.
totally hampered.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh,
he
I was just
can
going to get to that. A backflip after the rushing touchdown too.
No.
And that was so great to see. So cool to see because it totally different vibes on the ground than a Riley Leonard. And can move plenty more than like Sam Hartman or really most of the guys that came before him. Even like Ian Book was pretty mobile, like to an extent. So Kenny Minchie definitely brings a running style to this quarterback position that we haven't seen. But even with everything, I think the passing, Minchie was probably in the middle second. His running was first. CJ Carr just a different level, did a lot, just produced so much, and really was able to move the ball. And Angeli just felt like it was maybe the same issue before, where it didn't wow you, didn't feel like he took like a big leap. Maybe he took another step because this offense was
He caught
moving
a
with all these
groove.
quarterbacks.
He
Yeah.
caught a groove because he started 1 for 4 and he took another one of those sacks where he just holds onto the ball too long. And it's the reason why I can't get behind it. Because I understand there are a lot of people, Team Angeli, and I understand that peanut butter Angeli time. But the thing that I can't get over is that every time that I see him play, it's the same mistake of like he should never have to buy a beer in the city of South Bend for what he did at the end of that Penn State game. Thank you very much for your services. Phenomenal. But he did almost give the game away, holding onto the ball too long, sack fumbling, on that play, on that same drive. And it's just it's a commonality in for an offense like Notre Dame's where it's predicated on the run. A lot of times taking a sack like that is basically like ending the drive. So you can't do those things. And the fact that I'm still seeing it going into his final year of eligibility is kind of maddening. But I don't know. Maybe the coaches have some different things, like you said, with the tape, judging them based off of who their linemen were for it. Maybe that 1 for 4 start and the fumble they're not counting because he didn't have his what they deemed as the alignment of linemen necessary for being graded. But
Yeah,
I can't look at this game
me, like from Freeman. Like that was a comment that I was trying to grasp my head around even at the beginning. But yes, continue with Angeli there.
Yeah, I just look at it as when you have a quarterback that does not have any remaining eligibility, and you are at a program like Notre Dame. If you do not have any eligibility, in the coaching staff is looking at it, and if they ask the question, and this is the Miller Moss effect, and you ask the question, can this quarterback win a national title for my school this year? Can they contribute, I should say, to winning a national title? And if the answer is no, then you cannot start him. And it doesn't matter what's behind him. You just cannot. You have to, because that quarterback, this isn't the NFL, like in the NFL where you have the guys behind it. It's like, you bring in a guy like a Kirk Cousins, and he'll start and then transition to the rookie midway through the season. Like, that's not fair to Angeli. It's not fair to the program. They need to establish immediately, for his sake and for the program's sake, because Freeman said it. You can't go into the fall. You're going into the fall with you got to go in with 2 quarterbacks. So you can't keep playing footsie. I mean, now that spring's over and everybody's got their reps, I think the coaching staff needs to have and if he's still here, I mean, and wants to do it, like that's phenomenal, but I would not begrudge him if he moved on. But from what I've seen in the spring game, as well as from what we've heard inside the facility and at practices and at the scrimmage, I mean, he didn't win the job.
Yeah, he definitely did not win the job. I think there's definitely the vibe around the entire spring game that a lot of people were able to exhale a little bit and agree that, hey, you can win football games with all 3 of these guys at the helm. I mean, I know you're not dogging on Angeli, but
no, I think Angeli,
exactly.
I think Angeli could easily start the season 2-0. I think Angeli could go in and beat Miami, and I think Angeli could beat Texas A&M. But I'm not really concerned with the win-loss of the first 2 games of the season, because as we saw, you can lose a game to NIU at the beginning of the year and you can bounce back and go to the college football championship. So I'm not as concerned about that. It's when Notre Dame is matched up with the team at the end of the year after they played 15 games, what's the quarterback that I think can help them win the football game? And I think they could win a lot of football games with Steve Angeli, but I don't think he's the quarterback to get them over the hump. And I think that Minchie provides a set of skills that can, and I think that CJ Carr provides a set of skills separate from Minchie, but that can also get it done. So that's just sort of how I take the race.
Yeah.
But and as far as like judging between the 2 of them, it's like an episode of Chopped, man. Like, we're watching the dessert round, and just because CJ Carr won the dessert round, like, we don't know what Minchie did in the appetizer. We don't know what Minchie did with the main course. Like, Minchie could have crushed those 2, and the dessert round was just a formality. So it's tough to really say who does, but I feel comfortable that those 2 are probably going to be the ones moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, if Freeman were to get up on the podium and say, hey, look, this guy is our number 3 quarterback, and he's going to name it, and then that just split second before he says who number 3 is, you would probably be genuinely shocked if he said CJ Carr or Kenny Minchie. And that should probably just tell you the same thing that everybody's been preaching this entire spring, is that unfortunately Angeli's floor is high. It's the same as it's been. Like you said, he should never have to buy himself a beer, like in that area around campus ever again, because of what he did at Penn State. But when we're still talking about some of the same issues, holding on to the ball too long, or maybe not being able to have that upper elite level of play that can elevate this team, not just help you win the games because you've got a great defensive line, an amazing offensive line, tight ends, weapons everywhere, greatest returning, running back room or the best returning running back room in the nation. He should be able to elevate you when you're playing Ohio State. He should be able to do it, and it just feels like you're just not seeing it. And then the reports, like you mentioned, we don't know what the appetizer was like. We only know the dessert. We don't know the entree. We don't know how this really went this spring, and it's just clear after the first bit of actual live look that Angeli was probably 3. And I do think over the next few days, when things are wrapped up, he probably will find himself a new home, and that's okay too.
Yeah. And I mean, because I think for Angeli, 2 is as good as 3. So even if he finishes 2, like, he had to finish spring 1. Because you can't go into that you can't go into your final season of eligibility. He has a Notre Dame degree in hand. You can't go into that final year not with assurances that you're going to start, because you might never play football game. So get out there and Tennessee needs a quarterback. Like, you laugh and I laugh.
Yeah, I mean,
but like Tennessee needs a
I was thinking
Ooh.
of it actually from the old perspective of UCF. You know, a lot of programs will welcome in Angeli. Like I was thinking, and then this was also telling too. I was thinking, where would he go? You know, like when the spring game was getting towards the end, I was like, well, you know, if you're right, like two's as good as three, and he probably needs to have some sort of more assurance to be, you know, the guy who comes back in the fall. Like, so where would he go? And I think it's pretty telling. He's a very talented quarterback, and there's going to be programs, even still in the Power Four, maybe like lower level programs, still looking to rebuild. He honestly could start for very good. This
Yeah.
is like, and there's so many quarterbacks that move around, so many like grad transfers too. Certainly not anything that we haven't heard of. Um, and you know, that's okay. Like, but Angeli
If
just it's the high floor, low ceiling thing. And are they willing to do that again? Because you thought you were getting a little bit more from Sam Hartman, and you definitely thought, at least through the air, you were going to get more from Riley Leonard. Do they want to do that again? I don't think they do.
I don't think
I
so.
don't think they're going to let any of the past affect the decision. Just as they mentioned, hey, this was going to be an open quarterback race. Kenny Minchie was going to have just as good of a shot at it, or just as much of a shot at it as anybody else. I think that they're going to try to avoid making that decision based off of the past, what they've gotten from the other transfers. But yeah, I think Angeli, unfortunately, I think he will end up having to walk. But that's also the good thing about college football is that he can find another home and isn't stuck on the roster in his final year being the third string quarterback.
And you know, you wonder, you know, if this version of you know, Steve Angeli was on the 22 Notre Dame football team, they probably would have made the playoff, right? If it wasn't True Pine and it was this version of Angeli, I think with the talent they had with you know, Aldrich Estime and you know, Logan Diggs, I think they would have been able to. Which is hilarious to think about. But yeah,
So I yeah.
In terms of Jake Grizz asks about could a Steve Spurrier rotating 2 QB work, and they do have separate enough skill sets, so you could do maybe sort of like a Chrisley Tebow, or you could do. But I think the reason why I wouldn't is because neither one of them is a vet. So where you could have like a Belldozer situation with Minchie. I don't know if you want to. I don't know if you want to mess with a young quarterback making switches like that in the red zone, because like it kind of worked a little bit. You know, what was it? 2018 with the they would bring in before they eventually you know, benched Wimbush, but when they would bring in Book for the red zone plays, and maybe you could do that, but and I thought that maybe that could be a component, because what if it's Carr and Minchie does like some packages and bring them in there, but like, can you think of a recent example of that working out to
I mean,
national title success?
without a veteran quarterback, not off the top of my head. My thought, because I did actually have that thought during the spring game, was okay. So Angeli's probably leaving, so then I'm guessing CJ Carr is going to take this home, and he's going to be that starter that we're going to see in the first game on opening day here. And then Kenny Minchie, we'd see him a lot on 2nd and 1, 2nd and 2. But then you have such a deep quarterback room. Why would you want to risk an injury to Minchie if you're running like some sort of option, or you're running some sort of like spread out offense where you're doing maybe a quarterback draw, similar to what we did with Riley Leonard that entire drive for Ohio State and all year. I think that maybe in a sense could work if you can find a bit of a balance for it. But yeah, it's a little risky, but I'm thinking of it more so on the injury side. Like, I don't know if I would want to trot out,
because he's
also
I mean,
small.
Riley Leonard was 6'4" and built from granite. Like, he was built to bang. Kenny Minchie's only 6'2" and like 206, so he's more of a slight speedier guy, and like he's more scooty. Like, he's more looking to run to scramble so he can throw the ball. I'm not sure if QB power, you know, off tackle is really what he's doing. And why would you do that with him when you could just direct snap it to Jeremiah Love or direct snap it to Jadarian Price? So I don't know if bringing in Minchie for a running component, why you wouldn't just give another touch to Jeremiah Love. That would seem like what I would want to do.
I think that would be something maybe next year, depending on how that quarterback room looks, maybe how well CJ Carr were to play as 1 year as a starter, depending, looking even further ahead there. But yeah, why would you want to run it with your quarterback when you have such a talented running back room, such a veteran running back room, plenty of options in that running back room? I don't really see it, but like there is definitely something to be said that he is the main mover in this quarterback room. He is the guy who can make plays with his legs, and this is not over. Like this quarterback race, if everybody seems to be kind of in a bit of an agreement that hey, look, CJ Carr number one, Kenny Minchey number two, Steve Angeli will probably have to look elsewhere. But I think when we get to the fall,
It's going to be brutal
I think it's both these guys
in the best way.
even the
I
start
think.
again.
Yeah, I think we're going to get an iron sharpening iron situation in here. I don't think it's going to be one of those deals where both QBs struggle, fail, and then they're him hawing about who they're going to start. I think this is a race that either guy could take, and whoever wins, I think, could take Notre Dame to a college football playoff, especially with the defense and the secondary that Notre Dame's going to have, and the running game and the offensive line. Once they get all the pieces back on the offensive line. And, Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price, it's just the quarterback needs to be able to make plays when he's asked to make plays. And I have full confidence that either one of those two can be playmakers that will positively impact the game and not just a game manager that's there to, hand the ball off. So I'm excited for it. And we'll get some clarification on how the battle truly ended up, but I don't think we'll get a who's 1, 2, or 3. I think we're just going to find out who transfers, and then when that's made, then we kind of know, right?
Yeah, I mean we're not going to know who's outwardly at which position, but we'll know who's 3 depending on who ends up going. Because I still think that if either, and I know this sounds like a bizarre world just based off of us feeling like we know who it is, but I feel like if it was CJ Carr at 3, I think he would be gone. I think if it was Kenny Minchey at 3, I think he'd be gone as well. And I think that's why Steve Angeli will be going to, because I don't think any of those guys have played bad, and I think they all understand they could probably start wherever is looking for the most part. Obviously, you got some pretty good quarterbacks in the portal, but I think most of those guys would be at the top of the line for a lot of different places or the front of the line, and they could pretty much choose wherever they would want to go. My official pick, though, after the spring game and where we're headed for the fall, would probably be CJ Carr, though. I think he's just got so much momentum building. I think he was just so impressive. And despite not having the legs of Minchey, I think he still showed that he's probably still another step ahead of him passing. Do I trust him not to throw the pick, or do I trust him not to throw the pick right now? Probably not just yet. I think he'll still have some turnovers, some growing pains, especially being, the starter for the first time at this level. But I think as far as how they've played and what we've heard, I think you got to go with CJ Carr. It's just like that's just my own prediction going into week 1.
If you got a gun to head, ask me. CJ Carr is probably my pick as well. But I would be shocked if it's Minchey. And I do want to say that for all of the ridiculousness and the bad press and the nonsense that goes on with NIL and just the modern, transfer portal world that we now find ourselves in, and you got Nico's dad asking for Tennessee to double his salary, and then they take their ball and go home, and all of that nonsense. And that's very bad. I will say it's very good and healthy that the players that don't win this job or end up third, 3 very fabulously talented football players. And, if it's Angeli, if it's Minchey, if it's Carr, whoever transfers, they will go somewhere and probably start. And that is a good thing that they are able to remove themselves from a logjam where they might never get to play football, the game that they love. And in having, especially for Angeli, if you got your degree, you have your piece of paper, and now you can go and get paid and play football somewhere else. And I think that in the spirit of it, of what NIL should be, it's not the Nicos of the world. It's more like it's not made for them. It's made for the losers of a quarterback battle like this, that they can then Joe Burrow is able to lose a quarterback battle at Ohio State and go to LSU and become one of the greatest, single season quarterbacks of college football anyone's ever seen. And I felt like we needed to juxtapose what the nonsense with Nico is with the Notre Dame situation, and they're not the same. And that it's a good thing that this exists for them, even if there's some bad eggs and bad family members that are giving a black eye to the sport in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think with that situation, there's going to be a bit of a united front. We've already seen a lot of different programs just not have it, just say, hey, we're not interested. So it's really cool to see Notre Dame being able to have all of these guys go through an entire spring, true quarterback battle. I think that's awesome. I think it's really a testament to the way that things are being ran, to the, to the GM all the way, from like the athletic director to the GM to the coach. It seems like this is a really stable, trustworthy place for a lot of these young men. And yeah, I think Angeli could go into a lot of different places to start. So for him to actually stay in this battle against two guys who are highly recruited, high touted recruits, just shows the trust and the stability that this program has. I didn't know if you had any final words here before we get out of here. Talked about the spring game, talked a little bit about this quarterback battle, talked a lot about this quarterback battle. Actually, we're already like 51 minutes in. Wow, that kind of went by like quick. But yeah, I guess we didn't really learn as much as I would have thought, but I felt like we know a lot about this team.
I think we know a lot about it. I think what we got was, especially for the quarterback battle, a lot of it was confirmation bias. The quarterback you wanted to win won this spring. But we did get to see that this team is extremely talented, that the secondary is going to be better than last year's, despite losing Xavier Watts, which is insane. It's just this team that went to the playoffs and to the national championship and is losing their quarterback and several key pieces is going to turn over and be better next year. Mm-hmm. And the health of the program is seemingly only getting better, and that Marcus Freeman seemingly has this thing humming, and it has me extremely excited and stoked about the future of Notre Dame football. And last year was a sort of a surprise. Nobody saw a playoff run coming, and this year I don't expect to see any reason why we can't run it back, man. So I'm like Jigar said, like, it is the most talent. I mean, is maybe not the most talented 22, but definitely the most talented 44, the most talented, 66. I mean, like, how far
it's
back
an embarrassment
do you want to go?
of riches almost.
Yeah.
Like to be able to talk about, like, we were highlighting a lot of the freshmen today too in the spring game. We were saying they played well. There were certain guys who were injured, and they played well. We didn't even have Jeremiah Love out there, and we just feel confident enough that this running back room is amazing. Like, from top to bottom, this Notre Dame team. I was kind of coming in trying to have not a hot take, but I was hoping that we would learn more from the spring game, like we'd have some sort of big time takeaway. But we know that this team is talented from top to bottom. So of course there was nothing that just beat you over the head and was like, this guy is it, because there's a lot of players on this team that are it. And in this world of college football, when the spring looks so much different than it used to be, this team is very, very good.
Yeah, it's going to be good, and it's going to be fun. And I like that the schedule, it's not a murderer's row, but there's enough meat on the bones of the schedule that it's going to be intriguing games. And I think Notre Dame can and should win them all, barring injuries. When you have the best running back in college football and what should be one of the 4 best offensive lines, and most likely a finalist for the Joe Moore when all said and done, you're going to get stuff done. And this Notre Dame team seems very capable of doing that. And thinking back as far as like 10 years ago, and like what was holding Notre Dame back in that Fiesta Bowl was just a lack of depth. Like, the injuries caught them by season's end, and the Jalen Smith blowing out his knee in the Sugar Bowl against Ohio State was like the final nail for that defense that had just been racked with injuries all year. And you look at what they were able to do last year with guys go down and they just didn't care, man. They just kept powering through, and it's like next man up, next man up. And now all those next man's up that made it through the season were all seasoned. You know, they all got time to play, and they played 16 games. So like everybody's getting those extra practice reps. And it's just I think when you getting as far as they did in that inaugural year, I think gives Notre Dame kind of a head start. So we'll see how it plays out. Did you have anything else?
No, I think we covered everything. I think we said it all for Notre Dame. I mean, it's going to be an exciting year.
Well, do you watch movies, man? Like what kind of
Yes.
movies do you like?
So I'm definitely more of I'll either watch like the classic movies that, maybe some of like the all-time classics that you might see. So like, I'm talking like Christopher Nolan stuff. I've certainly seen plenty of the MCU films, grew up on that. So, Nolan, Tarantino, and then just whatever popcorn movie kind of comes out. I haven't seen the Minecraft movie, but
Yeah, I
know
was about to
that's
say, you
my,
said popcorn. Did you show up with your five boxes of
I'm a big
buckets of
Dune
popcorn?
guy. I got to be honest. I did not see the original,
Did you get the
but
Dune popcorn? Oh,
no, I did
that's
not get the Dune.
unfortunate.
They didn't have it.
Yeah, I like I was a big fan of it. I like the original Dune too. But I thought Timothy Chalamet killed it. And anytime you get a score from Hans Zimmer, you can sign me up. Do you like horror movies?
Ooh, no.
No.
So I've seen horror movies in the theaters. I prefer that more than just putting it on at
By
home.
yourself?
But I'd rather, yeah, by myself. I'd rather watch a comedy movie or something light, something good. Definitely a big sports movie guy though too. I'm a sucker for that. Moneyball. If Moneyball's on, I sit down and watch. Got to be every single time.
Loving Billy Bean. I like My Tigers Destroyed It. Yeah, I'm a big horror movie guy, which is, I mean, the more awful, just the better that it is for me. Like I love the Terrifier franchise. I don't know if you've ever seen those ones. If you don't like horror movies, you cannot abide that. It's but like do you like Nick Cage?
Yeah.
Oh, you should watch the movie Color Out of Space. So it's a horror movie starring Nick Cage based off an H.P. Lovecraft movie. What could go wrong?
Yeah. That's it. What a recommendation. I might actually end up doing that. Some people close to me do like horror movies, so I might end up actually, recommending that. Also, my dad was, he is actually a fan of Nick Cage. He had the movie Pig, right? I
Yep,
don't know.
Pig, and this is part of this, and it's much in the same vein as Pig and Longlegs, and sort of this new cage that we find ourselves in. It is a horror movie. It's a good one. I mean, it's my favorite H.P. Lovecraft story. But yeah, it's pretty brutal, and Nick Cage is at like peak Nick Cage. So if your dad loves a good peak Nick Cage, sign him up for this family-friendly movie.
Yeah, I might have to. The last Borderline movie like that I saw, it was more of a thriller, but it was The Butcher. It came out in theaters, and I went to watch that. It was M. Night Shyamalan, and it was the most outrageous movie. They were trying to find this guy. They set up this whole thing, this movie, or not this movie, this concert to find him.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're talking about the Josh Hartnett movie.
Yes.
It wasn't The Butcher. It was
Oh.
what was it? But Josh Hartnett was the bad guy in it, which is sad because he was America's sweetheart for a while.
Yeah, I guess it wasn't The Butcher. Maybe that was his name in the movie. Like
yeah, and he
yeah.
kidnapped like kids or something awful.
Yeah, it's crazy. It was intense. But I have not had a movie like
The Trap. Yeah, it's called Trap.
The Trap. Okay, Trap. Yeah, I have not had a movie that just had me on the edge like that in so long. And then it got so crazy, and I had no idea it was a Shyamalan movie until that third act just started just being like, okay, this is unbelievable. This is ridiculous. He asked you to take that extra step with him as a director. And I was on board, honestly. I was on board to the very end. It kind of got me. And I remember leaving that movie. I was like, I had no idea that was going to be what that was.
I always give M. Night a shot. I always try to, I called the twist at the Village the first time I ever saw it. I like all of his movies. I try and call the twist. Lady in the Water was a little bit tough. The movie stunk. Twist wasn't much worth anything. But yeah, you always try and call the M. Night twist.
Yeah. Well, it's a ton of fun. We talked movies. I'm glad we talked movies at the very end of these. That's almost my favorite part of it. But of course, Indy football's got to come first. So we know more than we did just a week ago. Probably CJ Carr, Kenny Minchie, and then Steve Angeli. But this defense is looking good. Everywhere's looking good. And this show is good. So if you want more of it, take a look at some of the clips from the show that come out throughout the week. We're also going to be talking a little bit of recruiting, probably the next go around. That's going to be a full swing. Ton of big gets this week for Notre Dame. So definitely keeping an eye out on the recruiting trail. That's something super big. That's Brendan. I'm Patrick. This has been the voice of college football on Notre Dame. We'll see you guys next Tuesday.